In 2012, a man broke the sound barrier from 128,000 feet. The whole world watched, 8 million live on YouTube. Behind it? A drinks company from Austria. Welcome to empirebuilt. Today, how did a caffeinated beverage become a global media empire that owns Formula One teams, runs 5 football clubs, and sends people to space? The answer lies in one decision made in 2007 that changed everything. Let's go back to where it all began. 1984. Dietrich Mateschitz, a 40-year-old Austrian marketing executive, sits in a Bangkok hotel bar. He's jet-lagged, exhausted, halfway across the world from his home in Salzburg. Someone hands him a small brown glass bottle. It's called Krating Daeng, a thick, sweet tonic popular among Thai truck drivers and factory workers pulling double shifts. He drinks it. Within minutes, the jet lag vanishes. Most people would say, that was a good nap, and move on with their lives. Mateschitz sees a billion-dollar idea hiding in that little brown bottle. He tracks down the Thai creator, a businessman named Chaleo Yuvadhia, and proposes an equal partnership. Each man puts in $500,000 of his own money. For the next 3 years, Mateschitz works obsessively, reformulating the taste for Western palates, making it less syrupy, more carbonated. He designs the slim silver Anbluken himself. And most importantly, he crafts not just a product, but an entire marketing philosophy that nobody in the beverage industry had ever seen before. April 1, 1987, Red Bull energy drink launches in Austria. It doesn't enter an existing market. It creates an entirely new product category. Energy drinks simply did not exist before this moment. The can looked like a battery. The tagline was audacious, Red Bull gives you wings. And the marketing strategy? It made absolutely no sense to anyone in the traditional advertising world. While Coca-Cola and Pepsi poured billions into television commercials, billboards, and print ads, Red Bull did something completely different. They paid university students to throw parties. They put free coolers full of Red Bull at skate parks, at surf competitions, at underground music festivals. They didn't advertise the taste of the drink, in fact, they barely mentioned the product at all. The focus was always on the experience, the lifestyle, the moment. They weren't selling a drink. They were selling a lifestyle. An attitude. A way of being. By the late 1990s, Red Bull owned the edges of culture where young people actually lived, the nightclubs, the skate parks, the mountain bike trails, the half-pipes, the places where traditional brands had zero credibility. The brand didn't feel like marketing because it wasn't traditional marketing. It was cultural sponsorship. And it worked brilliantly. But here's the part of the story that most people miss. The parties, the athletes, the events, the student brand managers, all of that was still essentially a creative marketing budget. Unconventional, yes. Genius, absolutely. But still marketing. What came next was something fundamentally different. The year is 2007. Red Bull is selling over 3 billion cans a year across more than 140 countries. By any normal business metric, they've already won. The company is an absolute cash machine. But Dietrich Mateschitz looks at the media landscape and sees a threat that almost nobody else in the beverage industry is paying attention to. Traditional advertising is dying. Television viewership is fragmenting into 1,000 cable channels. The internet is teaching people to ignore commercials completely. The entire business model of "we pay networks to interrupt your show with our 30-second ad" is becoming obsolete in real time. So Mateschitz makes the single most important decision in the company's history. He founds Red Bull Media House. Not a marketing department with a fancy name. Not an ad agency they happen to own. A fully independent, fully staffed media production company. Complete with its own television studio, its own film production arm, its own magazine division, its own music label, and its own digital content platform. And here is the fundamental shift that changes everything. Red Bull Media House was not created to sell more energy drinks. It was created to be a profitable media business on its own terms, with its own revenue streams. The drink was now funding the media operation, not the other way around. From this moment forward, Red Bull is no longer a beverage company that happens to do interesting marketing. Red Bull is a media company that happens to sell a very profitable beverage. The consequences of this decision are staggering. Let me walk you through what Red Bull actually owns today. In 2004, before the media house even existed, they had bought a struggling mid-tier Formula One team called Jaguar Racing for a symbolic $1. Under Red Bull ownership, that team transformed into a championship dynasty. Between 2010 and 2013, a young German driver named Sebastian Vettel won 4 consecutive world championships in a Red Bull car. More recently, in 2023, Max Verstappen won 19 out of 22 races, statistically the most dominant season in the entire history of Formula One. Red Bull now owns 2 F1 teams with combined annual budgets exceeding $500 million. And here's the genius part, F1 teams generate their own sponsorship revenue from other brands who want to be associated with winning. Red Bull doesn't just spend money on racing. Racing makes money for Red Bull. Then there's football. Red Bull Salzburg in Austria, the dominant force in Austrian football for over a decade. RB Leipzig in Germany, a club that climbed all the way from the 5th tier of German football to the Champions League semi-finals in less than a decade. New York Red Bulls in Major League Soccer. Red Bull Bragantino in Brazil, competing in the country's top division. 5 professional football clubs across 4 continents, each one serving as a permanent billboard that broadcasters show to the world for free every match day. And then there's Red Bull Stratos, that $30 million space jump mission. Felix Baumgartner ascending to 128,000 feet in a pressurized capsule, opening the hatch, and stepping into the void. The whole world watched. That was not a sponsorship deal with NASA or some aerospace company. Red Bull Media House produced the entire thing in-house. Every camera angle. Every second of the broadcast. Every frame of the documentary that followed. The same is true of the award-winning snowboarding film, The Art of Flight. The same is true of Red Bull TV, which produces thousands of hours of original content every year, distributed through their own platform and through licensing deals with broadcasters around the world. By 2025, the numbers tell the story. Red Bull spends over $3 billion annually on what they still call marketing, but that word doesn't really capture what they're doing. Nearly half of that budget goes to sports sponsorship and media production. The company sold 13.97 billion cans worldwide across 178 countries. They employ over 21,000 people. Their estimated annual revenue exceeds $10 billion. And the most remarkable thing about all of these numbers is this: their marketing doesn't feel like marketing. Because it isn't marketing. It's culture. So what can we actually learn from all of this? 3 things. First, the product is the entry ticket, not the destination. The energy drink is how Red Bull funds everything else. But the brand, the world of extreme sports and F1 and Stratos jumps, that's what people actually buy into. Nobody drinks Red Bull for the subtle notes of the flavor profile. They drink it because they want to belong, even symbolically, to the world that Red Bull has built. Second, if you're spending money to get attention, you should own the attention you're buying. Traditional advertising is renting eyeballs for 30 seconds at a time. Red Bull Media House is owning those eyeballs permanently. When you produce the content yourself, you're not just saving money on ad buys. You're building a real asset, an intellectual property portfolio, a library of content, a direct relationship with an audience, that actually appreciates in value over time. Third and most important, the best time to make a radical pivot is when you're already winning. Dietrich Mateschitz did not wait until Red Bull's sales were declining to build Red Bull Media House. He did it in 2007, when the company was at its absolute peak, precisely because that's when he had the resources and the confidence to make the transition permanent and irreversible. One decision. 2007, a beverage company from a tiny Austrian village decided to stop being a beverage company and become a media empire instead. It stopped being a brand that interrupts your content, and became the content itself. That's how you turn a drink into an empire. Subscribe for more stories about the hidden decisions behind iconic brands.